announcement. 2 days ago, which is his birthday today. And we wish him all the best. I will sing for him outside of this meeting. Thank you very much. Is there any other member who wants to make an announcement?
I thought you'll sing for me as well, Speaker.
Yes, member Chitangano, yeah.
Honorable PC, I don't know why should I sing for you, but I will sing you offline. I will sing for you offline as well. Is there any member who wants to make an announcement?
Yes,
Announcement,
member,
not a member statement.
Yes, member Chitangano wants to make an announcement. Thank you, Speaker. The EFF as an anti-racist movement and the champion of an egalitarian society will be holding an anti-racism protest on the 20th November, which is tomorrow, in Brackenfell High School. All the progressive forces are come.
Yes, if you make an announcement, but I'm still going to come to the member statements.
Madam Speaker, I want to also make an announcement.
Yes, I noted you. Honorable Shitangano, are you done? Can you switch off if
you do not hear me. Let me repeat if you do not hear me, Speaker. I'm repeating. I thought maybe
you are shouting. The gadgets are scared of people who are shouting.
No, it's my nature. It's my nature. It's my nature.
Continue.
Yeah. The EFF
can you switch off your mic?
The EFF as an anti-racist movement and the champion of an egalitarian society will be holding an anti-racism protest on the 20th November, which is tomorrow, in Brackenfell High School. All the progressive forces are welcomed to join us. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable PC. Honorable PC.
It was me, Honorable Tagire, who wanted to make an announcement, Madam Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Tagile.
Yes, want to make an announcement by congratulating the African National Congress for decisively winning the by-elections that have taken place last week, Madam Speaker. Unlike others who have never got even a half of a word, we say halala ANC, halala.
Okay, I think those were the two members who wanted to do announcements. We'll go to the member statement, starting with Honorable Shitangano. Honorable Shitangano, your member statement. Oh, he has disappeared. Honorable Hoffman.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honorable Hoffman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaker, can I continue?
Honorable Tilange.
Madam Speaker, Honorable Hoffman is already... Madam Speaker, can you hear me? Honorable Hoffman is ready to continue. Madam Speaker, can you hear me? Are we audible?
I can hear you, Honorable Tilange, now.
Member Hoffman is ready to continue. Thank you, Madam.
Can continue in the meantime since we are ready.
Madam Speaker, can you hear me? Madam Speaker, can you hear me?
Honorable Hoffman, yes.
Can I continue?
I can hear you, but if you can also, Honorable Hoffman, can you take off your phone because it looks like you have two gadgets on your side and they're disturbing the. Can you continue?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in response to the EFF's rhetoric on Senekal, it is becoming more prevalent by the day that the modus operandi of the EFF is to label everything it does, not agree with, to be racist. The labeling of its critics or those who do not toe its line as racist showcases the profound lack of ideas of the party.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
We're wasting our time.
Madam Speaker, point of order, please. It's Member De Lange.
Honorable Tilange, I've not. Honorable Tilange, I have not allowed you to speak. Can we respect other members when they speak?
Thank you, ma'am.
Honorable Mukwebo, please don't do what you are doing. Honorable Shitanga, no, I don't expect that from you. Can we allow Honorable Hoffman to speak? Because you are also going to have your turn to speak as well. And you will want to be listened. Honorable Hoffman?
Thank you, Speaker. It is becoming more prevalent by the day that the modus operandi of the EFF is to label everything it does, not agree with, to be racist. The labeling of its critics or those who do not toe its line as racist showcases the profound lack of ideas the party has. This phenomenon of political scapegoating is nothing new. Ardent criminals, for example, in attempts to evade long prison sentences, will plead insanity in the hopes of lenient sentences. Similarly, the EFF label everything under the sky as racist, so to prevent reasoning and critical thought. After all, racism, the ultimate sin in South Africa, and once one labels something as racist, then the moral high ground is taken and the argument won. The EFF will not be able to hide behind this forever. The FF Plus formal complaint laid at the Human Rights Commission against the EFF and its corrupt leader is valid and just. The EFF's dangerous rhetoric is no different than that was spewed from the airwaves of Radio Rwanda in the months prior to the April 1994 genocide. Radio Rwanda, the mouthpiece of the Rwandese government at the time, incited one group of the population to an extent that within the space of over a month, the ensuing civil war claimed 17% of the national population. There is no room for hate speech in a democratic South Africa. Hate speech must...
Someone muted Member Hoffman, Madam Speaker. Can we please have the people? Can we restart?
They'll be removed.
No. Madam Speaker, please.
Honorable Tilange, whoa. Honorable Tilange, you don't have to behave in that fashion. Let me ask Honorable Shitangano. You'll be followed by Honorable Mukwebo to retract the statement to say Honorable Hoffman is a racist. You can't say that in this meeting is unparliamentary. Can I request that both of you?
That is all you know, Speaker. You never
Honorable Shitangano.
To focus your attention to the EFF. That's all you know. We know that.
Honorable Shitangano, can you retract your statement when you say Honorable Hoffman is racist? I want to give you a chance. Can you do that now?
But I said racist. I did not say Hoffman is racist.
Honorable Shitangano, I don't want your explanation. Can you retract your statement?
Which statement?
Do you want
Honorable Shitangano, you can't, when Honorable Hoffman is speaking and you say racist, you can't say it. You raise that. You said that word in this context.
No, but they never
Do you want
said
Honorable
Hoffman is a
Shitangano to
racist. I'm not
retract?
racist.
Yes or no?
Madam Speaker, he looks like a racist. I don't know.
I don't expect that from you. Honorable Shitangano, can you retract?
But they never said he's a racist. I said
Honorable
racist.
Shitangano, do you want to retract? Yes or no?
To retract what,
No,
Madam Speaker?
You said racist.
No.
But they never called anyone a racist. I just said a
Honorable
racist.
Shitangano, are you deliberately undermining the ruling of the presiding officer?
No, Speaker, you are wrong. Point of order.
Honorable Shitangano,
Point of order, Speaker.
there's no point of order. I'm speaking to Honorable Shitangano. Honorable
raising your point
Shitangano,
of
are you
order.
deliberately undermining the ruling?
Point of order, Speaker.
Wait with your point of order. I'm talking to Honorable Shitangano.
Yeah, but I'm raising your point of order. Please note me.
I have noted you. Honorable Shitangano,
But I must understand what I'm retracting on.
Honorable Shitangano, while Honorable Hoffman is on the podium and he is addressing the House and the people of Gauteng, you said racist. And I took it that you are referring to Honorable Hoffman. And if you are not referring to him, it will be easy for you to apologize.
But I was not referring to him.
Who were you referring to?
To Membali Dwab.
No. We are not here to play Honorable Shitangano. Can you retract? And if not, I'm going to invoke the rule.
But there is nothing to retract there. How can you retract something that you did not say?
Honorable Dwab, I'm not talking to you. I'm saying Honorable
But you are
Shitangano
wrong.
said racist.
Sir,
And Honorable Hoffman is on the podium. He's on the speaking. He is addressing the people of Gauteng. Honorable Shitangano, I don't want to debate with
I
you.
will retract the fact that I interjected. For that, I retract.
Interjection is not a sin. It is part of the rules. But the word racist
Yeah,
in this
but,
meeting. No, Shitangano, I don't want to debate. It's either you retract or you don't want to retract. And I'm going to make a ruling.
I'm not retracting.
Thank you. I therefore suspend you. You are not going to participate in the rest of this meeting. Thank you very much. Honorable Mokwebo, you are the next person. You also said you are racist. You even said you are racist when Honorable Hoffman was speaking. Can you retract your statement?
You said what must I retract there? I said what?
You referred to Honorable Hoffman as a racist.
And then what must I do?
You apologize and retract that statement.
No, I won't apologize to him. He's a racist. I can retract what I said. I can't apologize
I
to
also
him.
suspend you, but I'm going to take this matter up because you need to prove that Honorable Hoffman is a racist. So we'll refer this matter to the committee that is supposed to look into this particular matter, because all members in this sitting, in this legislature, are protected by law. They have a right to participate. You have a right to raise your issue, but you don't have a right to insult or even suggest otherwise about other members. So you are also suspended for the duration of this meeting. Thank you very much. Honorable Hoffman, can you continue?
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The fact of the matter is that the EFF are suffering from clinical schizophrenia. One day they are experts at calling out racism, while the next day they ignore their own hate speech. One day they rush to the defense of public and private property, while the next day they call for the destruction of that same property. What happened in Senegal infuriated the EFF because they are under the impression that only they have the right to protest. Are not other groups allowed to vent their anger once in a blue moon? Or does the monopoly on protest belong only to the EFF and its parent organization, the ANC. In the entire history of the EFF, they have not once condemned a protest in South Africa. The idea that the farming community of Senekal stood up against state-sponsored oppression of minorities shook the EFF command to their toes. In summary, to echo FF Plus leader Pieter Groenewald, action must be taken against Malema and his band of delinquents in the interest of everyone in the country. We hope that the Human Rights Commission will take decisive action once and for all. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Dwaba, what's the point of order?
My point of order, Speaker, is that that member was insinuating that the EFF is a racist organization. That is why in the response, our members felt insulted. So you should actually ask him to retract the fact that he's implying and insinuating that the EFF is a racist organization. And lastly, when a person is racist, how do you call him?
There's no point of order.
When a person is
we'll continue with the meeting because he was referring to a particular incident, not to the EFF. Let's continue with the meeting. Honorable Tilangi, you are the next person to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't know where the oversight came, but it is actually Member Alberts that's going to speak on. He's the next speaker. I'm not speaking today. Thank you.
It's another waste of
Honorable
airtime.
Alberts.
Another waste of airtime, Madam Speaker, by Member Alberts. Waste of airtime.
Honorable Sufi, Madam Speaker, please.
Madam Speaker.
We do not expect this from a MEC. Please, ma'am.
Yeah.
Honorable Tilangi, we are also interjection. Please, please, Honorable Tilangi. Let's allow Honorable Alberts.
But it's a waste of airtime, Madam Speaker.
But Madam Speaker, this clown is I don't know what's he doing.
Madam Speaker, it's unbecoming of an MEC to interject like this. It is unbecoming of
An MEC cannot be called a clown.
Honorable Alberts,
I
allow you to
It's against the rules of this
I don't know
House
what you are
rules of
referring to
engagement.
now.
An MEC
Can
cannot
we
be
be
called a
orderly
clown.
and listen to your member statement? Honorable Alberts, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Withdraw clown, Madam
We can continue to protect them.
Madam Speaker, an MEC cannot be called a clown, not in this honorable House.
Honorable Alberts, can you withdraw the word clown?
It was Honorable Hoffman, Madam Speaker. It was Honorable Hoffman.
No, but you're all speaking. It's Honorable Hoffman. Honorable Hoffman.
Madam Speaker, I withdraw the word clown.
Honorable Alberts, you're trying out to speak.
He must apologize.
And switch off the
Hoffman
video.
must apologize.
We don't enjoy seeing that face.
Honorable members, do you want to sing? Because what I'm listening here, it's singing, it's not talking. And if we need to talk, we need to allow one person to talk at a time. And this time...
Speaker, why are we allowing Kobas Hoffman to say the ANC is the mother body of the EFF?
Honorable Makubela, this is a member statement, please. Honorable Alberts, can you continue? Honorable Hoffman, can you switch off your mic? Honorable Alberts, can you... Honorable Tagile, what's your problem?
Madam Chair, may I start?
Continue.
Thank you very
Honorable
much.
Alberts.
Madam Speaker, COVID-19 has created immense challenges for our economy. The manner in which the state of disaster was implemented will be judged by history. It is an open question how it will be judged. Suffice to say that we already see the effect thereof will be much more disastrous than the pandemic itself. Countrywide, we are faced with almost 50% unemployment with no substantial plan in sight to fix the increase in poverty, while COVID corruption has added a new dimension to the existing systemic corruption problem. If ever, now is the time to use public funds with care and wisdom to maximize benefits for the public. However, the public has yet to truly experience this. More committees in this legislature are now dealing with COVID-19 related investigations of possible irregularities. It seems that the avalanche of possible corruption is growing and not dissipating despite overtures made by the ANC to clamp down on the scourge. The ANC has time and again in the past made promises that corruption and crime in general will be addressed. Within Gauteng, the Premier has made those commitments to fight any corruption when the COVID-19 related corruption in the province surfaced. yet it seems to have very little effect. It is unfortunate that the ANC does not seem to be able to change for the better. Therefore, the ANC will have to answer for these sins at the next election cycle to its own detriment. I thank you.
I told you, Madam Speaker, it's a waste of airtime. I told you.
Honorable Tabile, Honorable Lesuf, you're also wasting my airtime. Honorable Tagile.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we note the release and the launch of the Household Travel Survey report by the Department of Roads and Transport in Gauteng for the year 2019-20 financial year. The research was conducted by CSIR on behalf of the Department of Roads and Transport. We further know that Gauteng is the only province that has constantly conducted a survey over the past 15 years in the country. The report has confirmed that there are strains and challenges facing households when commuting to work and other areas of economic activities, including for social life. Secondly, the report has highlighted the need for the province to invest more resources to transport sector, given the challenges facing the working class community. The report states, among others, the following key findings: that walking remains the predominant mode of travel, as over 29% of trips in the peak period take place through walking all the way. Working time to access first transport and last destination has increased respectively to 14 minutes since 2014. The intra-municipal travel remains high at close to 90% of the commuters. The travel time has increased over the past 20 years from 46 minutes in 2014 to 57 minutes in 2019-20 financial year, for example. Madam Speaker, these are serious and several implications to these findings. And this requires a call for the speedy response by the Department of Transport as part of our efforts and endeavor to build a transport system that is safe, reliable, accessible, and integrated in the province of Gauteng. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Shitangani, we are not going to speak in this meeting because I've invoked Rule 96. Rule 95, which states as follows: a member ordered to withdraw, the member presiding over the House or chairing a committee meeting may order a member to withdraw immediately from a meeting for the remainder of that meeting or a shorter period if he or she is in the opinion that the member is deliberately contravening a provision of the rules. So that rules apply in this particular matter. Thank you very much. We're now going to go to the next item, which is motion without notice in terms of Rule 120. We don't have any. I want to check if is there a member who wants to give notice of a motion in terms of Rule 121. Any member? There is none. Can I request the secretary to read the first order?
The first order of the day is introduction of the Gauteng Provincial Adjustments Appropriation Bill and the medium-term budget policy statement for the 2020-2021 financial year.
Honorable MEC Nkomo Ralihuku. MEC Nkomo Ralihuku.
Might be the network, Chair.
That's the Department of eGov. It can't have a problem with network.
No one is insulated. And these things will surprise you. People who say nonsensical things do not have interruptions in their network. Those that are worthy of being listened to.
Please,
Advocate Murphy's Law.
Advocate, please. I'm here.
Especially those.
Don't speak as if I'm not here, Advocate, please. Madam Speaker, thank you. Honorable Premier, colleagues in the executive, Honorable Chief Whip, honorable members of this House, mayors and MMCs, HODs of our departments, CEOs of our public entities, private sector, representatives, and friends. It is an honor and a privilege to present to this House the 2020 medium-term budget policy statement of the 6th administration under the leadership of Premier David Kura. This year's MTPBS comes at a difficult time for our province, our country, and the rest of the world. This is because we continue to battle with the worsening COVID-19 pandemic that has resulted in the death of millions of people, unprecedented number of job losses, and the destruction of people's livelihoods, not just in Gauteng and in South Africa, but worldwide. This pandemic has devastated economies, increased poverty, and wide. As we speak, the data from Johns Hopkins University in the US shows that more than 51 million people around the world have been infected with the virus. And according to South Africa Centers of Disease Prevention and Control, just over 1.9 million of these people are in Africa. South Africa accounts for more than 700,000 of these cases. But most importantly, our country has the highest number of recoveries from this disease. Sadly, we have lost more than 20,000 people to this virus. Our heartful condolences goes to the loved ones of those departed fellow countrymen and women. In this regard, I call on all the people of Gauteng to support the 5 days of mourning from the 25th to the 29th of November, as announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa, to remember all those that we lost due to COVID-19 and gender-based violence, the other societal challenge which is facing our country. During that mourning period, let us all wear a black armband to show our respect to all those who have departed. Honorable members, the National Department of Health says, although our infection rate has stabilized over the past 2 months, the country is still experiencing pockets of cluster outbreaks. And this shows that COVID-19 will remain with us for the near future. As government, we call on our people to continue to follow public health protocols that are required to fight the spread of the COVID-19. Let us all continue to wash our hands for at least 20 seconds with soap or use alcohol-based sanitizer, properly wear our mask when and maintain social and physical distance to protect ourselves and those around us. We welcome the progress that is being made in South Africa and internationally to develop a vaccine to fight this virus. Our hope is that when the vaccine is finally found, it will be fairly and equitably distributed around the world to save the lives. Honorable members, the following devastating effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, a black swan event in the history of the world. The province tabled a special adjustment budget on the 23rd of July 2020 to provide the funding required to address the impact of the pandemic and to align the budget to the envisaged consequences of the lockdown regulation. For the 2020 medium-term expenditure framework, which is MTF, this is done within severe constrained fiscals. Our economy is expected to contract by 7.8% this year. There have been severe job losses, which increased our unemployment rate. And as a province, we also had to revise our projected revenue targets of the 2019-2024 medium-term strategic framework. The national government is leading the path to rebuilding our economy through the Economic Reconstruction and Development Plan. The enormity of this work that must be done was clearly explained by President Ramaphosa when he presented the Economic Reconstruction and Development Plan to Parliament last month, and I quote, "Even the darkest of cloud has a silver lining.
We need to see this moment as a rupture with the past and an opportunity to drive fundamental and lasting change. It is an opportunity not only to recover the ground that we have lost over the course of the pandemic, but to replace the economy on a new path to growth, close quote. Yesterday, President Ramaphosa led the third South Africa Investment Conference as part of his drive to attract 1.2 trillion in investment to our country in the next 5 years. This presidential initiative has inspired great investment momentum with over 650 billion in investment commitments made during the first two conferences. From these commitments, projects valued to 872 billion were already under implementation and creating jobs for our people. At this year's conference, local and international investors made additional investment commitments that further demonstrate that even during these difficult times, our country continues to inspire confidence. As the Gauteng provincial government, we are convinced that the comprehensive interventions of the remodeled Growing Gauteng Together Vision 2030 are the key to rebuilding and growing our economy. Therefore, we are committed to continue to align funding to the 7 priorities of the 6th administration. Honorable members, the recent Exco Lekgotla agreed that in addition to these 7 GGT 2030 priorities, we must also track progress on the implementation of the following overarching key areas, namely our township economy revitalization by tracking government spend and supporting SMMEs and township entrepreneurs, the economic emancipation of women with plans to counter gender-based violence through upscaling of the Welfare to Work program, the implementation of youth empowerment programs through TEPO 1 million program, and driving a skills revolution using EPWP program to attract the youth and clean governance by institutionalization of integrity, ethical leadership, and accountability in the public service. Gauteng as the economic hub of South Africa is key to achieving these objectives of President Ramaphosa's economic reconstruction and development plan. We believe that we are better placed to achieve this goal because GGT is aligned to the national plan and seek to address the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, unemployment, which have been worsened by COVID-19 through the following. We need to create the enabling conditions for infrastructure rollout, reindustrialize Gauteng for the 21st century through multi-tier SEZ and high growth sector program, bringing opportunity to many and confront inequality at the spatial level through township economy revitalization action plan, including strategic localization and production. Systemically confront youth economic inclusion through TEPO 1 million and the youth workforce program with a focus on mass public employment to complement private sector opportunities. We need to restructure the Gauteng economy for long-term growth by modernizing industries, lowering barriers to entry and addressing distorted patterns of ownership, with a particular focus on women-owned and women-empowering enterprises, prioritizing labor-intensive growth, focused flexibly industrial policy, and engaging the private sector and social partners to join the effort through structured social compacting. Honorable members, through this mid-year adjustment budget, we are providing funding for these GGT 2030 priorities, taking into consideration the economic realities as well as the impact of the pandemic in our fiscals. The year 2020 has been a challenging one for the global economy, as the impact of COVID-19 pandemic has affected the growth prospects of most economies. The latest estimates from the International Monetary Fund suggest that the global economy will decline by 4.4%. The economic downturn in most economies reflect a significant fall in private consumption in most economies as a result of social distancing, and this will have a replicating effect on the overall aggregate demand, on trade, on investment, and on economic activity. The fall in aggregate demand has also affected business sentiments and weakened investment, which also affected the labor market as unemployment soared in most economies. The severe impact of COVID-19 has also resulted in the reversal of progress made towards fighting global poverty worldwide, as the economic impact of the pandemic has disproportionately adversely affected the low income levels, and especially in our low income households. However, the forecast of 2021 indicates that a robust recovery will, with global growth reaching 5.2%. This will primarily be driven by a return to normal economic activity, but also robust recovery in the international trade, especially in our country, which is South Africa. Our country's gross domestic product is expected to decrease by 7.8% this year. It must be remembered that pre-COVID-19, the economy was not in good shape, with poor microeconomic fundamentals. This has been worsened by the contagion from the global recession that has been caused by the pandemic and due to the domestic lockdown measures that were necessary to slow the local infection rates. However, the National Treasury estimates has a slight recovery in 2021 growth rate. The National Treasury estimates a slight recovery in 2021 rather, with growth rates expected to continue thereafter. These higher growth rates will only be possible if a more conducive environment is created for long-term investment with support for innovation, including towards a greener economy. The structural reform measures include opening the energy market, modernizing rail and port infrastructure, reducing red tape and the cost of doing business, facilitating regional trade, and reduction the skills deficit with immigration and education reforms. Gauteng's economy is expected to contract by 8.4% in 2020. However, the gradual resumption of most economic activity that begin in the month of August, the estimates for 2021 suggest a marginal recovery. And in line with the South Africa as a whole, Gauteng province is expected to recover to a growth of 2.6% in 2021. The COVID-19 pandemic has permanently changed the economic landscape in the regional economy and nationwide. The recovery will likely be gradual over at least the 2 years. Centrally to the recovery, we will be in a process to restructure the nature of economic activity in a manner that will reduce future economic disruptions and this nature in the future. This process presents opportunity for future growth. Addressing the third Global Business Services and Digital Economy Sector Action Lab last month, our Premier David Makura emphasized that the creation of a conducive environment is key to ensure that business activity increases jobs, and most jobs are created in the economy. I will open quote when he said, "On our part as government, we will continue to focus on cutting the red tape, invest in skills enabling infrastructure, unlock incentives as well as provide safe and secure environment," close quote. In response to the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, GGT 2030 has been remodeled to speed up the reconstruction and recovery of the provincial economy. The remodeled GGT 2030 brings the possibility of an expansion of the tourism sector, growth in trade, catering and accommodation services sectors, growth in exports for agricultural sector, a rise in labor productivity and an increased competitive of strategic sectors. As Gauteng, we are committed to use special economic zones to reindustrialize and modernize the Gauteng economy and thus improve infrastructure. SEZ-related construction projects commenced in August, and these investments have increased from 2.46 billion to 4.33 billion. The SEZ project in the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone will boost the automotive industry infrastructure and will produce 200,000 cars a year by 2022. The building phase of this SEZ is the first stage of a 20 billion investment by the Ford Motor Company in the Tshwane Automotive Cluster, matched by 4 billion in public investment. Other SEZ projects will be initiated in the Val, aimed at revitalizing the manufacturing sector, logistics, agriculture, and agro-processing in a joint operation with the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller. The Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, which is DTIC now, The manufacturing circle and the National Business Initiative will be part of those initiatives. These plans aim to focus on urgent issues.
The MEC is muted.
Is muted.
MEC, we can't hear you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hello. 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 Hello.
MEC, it might happen that you have another gadget open next to you and it's disturbing your audio. We still can't hear MEC.
The cost of Africa penalizing you, Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My apologies, somebody. My apology, Madam Speaker. The gadget that is at the legislature. It's too loud. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Other people who are next to you have got their sounds on, so that's why we're hearing an echo. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it
Can you
sounds
hear me?
better.
Thank you.
Sounds better. They must take
Thank
all
you.
the other gadgets out, MEC.
We don't have any gadget here. The one that has been unmuted, that create problem, is the one that is at the legislature. So,
Okay.
but we've sorted it out. Thank you.
You can continue.
Thank you. The province has developed a project pipeline aligned to the sixth administration. Implementation of infrastructure projects as planned in the 3-year infrastructure project management plans will only be achieved if they are credibly and signed off of 3-year infrastructure program implementation plan prepared by implementing agents. In the 2020-2021 financial year, a total budget of 11.6 billion was allocated for the Gauteng Provincial Government Infrastructure Program to maintain and improve the condition of the existing stock and to provide additional assets. This budget was adjusted upward by 617.4 million in the special budget to 12.2 billion. And Gauteng Provincial Government is focused on using infrastructure investment to reignite the economy as a result of budget of 12.3 billion, which is allocated to the infrastructure program, which represents an upward adjustment of 80.8 million. The main drivers of the upward adjustment include the approval of the rollover request of 165 million for the Department of Human Settlement and an upward adjustment of 99.6 million for the Department of Education to fund an improved infrastructure performance and resultant additional cash flow requirements for the remaining months of the financial year. The impact of the COVID-19 lockdown regulations and as well as the lack of readiness of projects to proceed from the planning and design to construction makes it very difficult to allocate a higher budget. Gauteng Provincial Treasury is specifically working with the departments to progress projects from the planning and design stages to construction. Overall infrastructure expenditure should ideally indicate a constant pattern throughout the financial year. Thus, 50% of annual expenditure should have been achieved by the end of October, of the end of the Q2 rather. However, the normal expected expenditure pattern cannot be applied in the current financial year due to the national lockdowns restrictions that negatively affected the performance of infrastructure projects. It is expected that the infrastructure spending will improve gradually since national lockdown restrictions have been eased to level 1. We are aware that the remaining months of the financial year will be characterized by the builders' holiday between December and January. Our hope is that the industry will shorten this holiday period to make up the time lost as a result of COVID-19. Provincial departments must follow the due diligence in ensuring that there is an alignment between the different planning documents. GPG does not want to see an increase in variations that could have been avoided if proper planning was undertaken and professional service providers applied due diligence in exercising their responsibilities. No infrastructure project should be allowed to proceed to construction before all the required approvals have been obtained from the relevant statutory authorities, such as municipalities. Over and above social and economic infrastructure, which is funded through the fiscals, the Gauteng Provincial Government is also looking into working with the private sector in order to deliver priority infrastructure projects at a scale that is essential to grow the economy. To accelerate infrastructure development and transform the South African economy, the role of the private sector will be essential in deploying public-private partnership models and purely private funding. Gauteng is already working with the Infrastructure South Africa Agency, that is at the presidency, and is planning to set up infrastructure investment to revive the provincial economy. This drive will eventually seek blacks, in particular women and young people, drawn in the thrust of economy of the province. The industrialization and export promotion refer to the development of specialized economic zones in the province. One example which I mentioned earlier is the construction of the Tshwane Automotive Special Economic Zone, as I've indicated. The Gauteng Provincial Government continues to improve the ease of doing business in each sector in compliance with applicable lockdown regulations towards the development of a skilled workforce for each industry and build enabling infrastructure, including SEZ and industrial parks. Honorable members, as Gauteng, we believe that it is fitting for us to reflect deeply on the lessons learned during this time of crisis that we face in the world. The value of crisis is not the trauma, pain and destruction that it has caused in our lives and in our economy, but a valuable lessons learned, both positive and negative. We saw humanity at its best when many people continuously placed their own lives in danger to save the lives of others. We honor these heroes and heroines of our response to the pandemic. But we also saw the worst behavior. We have seen corrupt activities resulting from the abuse and mismanagement of supply chain management processes during COVID-19. And this has eroded the trust between the people and the government. Honorable members, as a province, we have been outspoken and consistent in the fight against corruption, wastage, maladministration, and unethical conduct. That is why Premier David Makura has continuously briefed the public about the actions that the province is taking against anyone implicated in the wrongdoing concerning the procurement of personal protective equipment and other services related to the fight against COVID-19. To promote transparency and adhere to the Premier's commitment to clean governance, Gauteng Provincial Treasury has embarked on an exercise of disclosing the provincial expenditure on PPE every month. This report includes DPT departments, entities, and municipalities. To date, the department has disclosed 3 reports from April to September 2020. And on the 30th of November, we were publishing the October 2020 report. We also continue to report the procurement of PPEs to National Treasury and to the people of Gauteng as required by the prescripts. Furthermore, we continue to conduct compliance checkouts throughout the departments and provide guidance where it is required. Honorable members, the Office of the Auditor General has finalized the audit processes for 2019-20 financial year, with exemption of few areas where the AGSA is performing quality control processes. As we present the MTPPS to this House today, we also bid a farewell to Auditor General Kimi Makwetu, who sadly passed away last week. I therefore take this opportunity to once again express our condolences to the Office of the Auditor General, his family, his friends and colleagues. He was a great public servant who was strongly committed to good governance and ethical conduct. One of his greatest legacies is undoubtedly the amendment of the Public Audit Act to give the Auditor General powers to act against officials for deliberately taking wrong decisions and waste the hard-earned taxes of the citizens. Honorable members, these tough economic times that we are experiencing will persist for the near future, and the next 3 years will be characterized by 2 things. It will be the gradual economic recovery from the unprecedented economic shock experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic, and then the gradual revival of the economy that will pick up as a result of the measures that are laying the foundation for a new growth path. This means that we will continue to experience revenue shortfalls across the spheres of government, increasing pressure on already stretched public finances. Therefore, the allocation of budget in the next 3 years will be guided by the following principles: the alignment to the priorities and interventions adopted to GTT 2030. The first one. The second one will be the strategic projects that will stimulate economic growth in the Gauteng City region. And the third one will be the allocation that will consider the capacity of departments to absorb and effectively utilize the resources. As Gauteng Provincial Government, we believe that it is during these difficult times that many people depend on government for their healthcare needs, education, requirements, and social services. It is therefore our duty in these difficult times to balance between containing expenditure and growing the economy. We will also accelerate the implementation of the revenue enhancement strategy, eliminating leakages in the own revenue generation, and is very important, particularly in these times, in order to resource provincial priorities as a provincial equitable share and conditional grants from national, which are steadily on the decline. We must also manage accruals as they are a risk to the provincial budget. As we continue with the delicate balance of managing public finances, we must also work with all our partners to achieve the economic growth. This must be done through accelerating the implementation of the economic recovery plan, focusing on productive and growth sectors with an immediate aim of job creating much needed jobs for our people. Honorable members, let me now turn to the adjustment budget. In July, I adjusted the budget of this financial year to 146.4 billion. And today we're further adjusting the 2020-21 budget of the province to 143.7 billion. The most profound change to the 2020-21 baseline is seen in the reduction by 5 billion to the provincial equitable share, this being the clawing back of funds set aside for the improvements in conditions of service for the public servants. This is the result of the fiscal consolidation measures announced by the Minister of Finance in response to the weaker than expected growth, continued deterioration in public finances, and challenges to implement structural reforms. The extraordinary shock to economic output in 2020 has deepened the revenue shortfalls, which are expected to persist over the medium term, and which, added to the worsening debt to GDP ratio, necessitate urgent action to avoid tipping off of the fiscal cliff. As the Gauteng provincial government, we will continue to work closely with the national and other relevant stakeholders to ensure service delivery is not affected. For conditional grants, there are cuts of 91.4 million in order to contribute towards the funding of the recapitalization of South African Airways. A total amount of 591.4 million will be rolled over from the 2019-20 to the 2020-21 financial years, of which 526 million is conditional grant funding, and the balance of 65.4 million from the provincial equitable share. The details of these rollovers are as follows. Under the Department of Health, the department received a total rollover of 340.5 million, of which 290.6 million is for unpaid invoices and machinery and equipment at the end of the 2019-20 financial year, and 50.9 million for outstanding commitments in goods and services. Under education, a total of 52.4 million is rolled over to the 2020-2021 financial year to honor invoices that were received after the cut-off date from service providers. Under human settlement, the department will be receiving a total of 165 million in respect of unpaid invoices that could not be certified timely and processed for payment before the cut-off date, as well as delays in the proclamation, formalization and registration of township that lead to delays in the registration and transfer of title deeds. A further 7 million will be rolled over for the payment of property rates and taxes. Under community safety, a total of 5.3 million will be rolled over to the 2020-2021 financial year to honor invoices to Chief Fleet. In addition, the rollover of an amount of 5.3 million is reallocated to the department, being monies received for services rendered to other organs of state. Under the Department of Sports, Arts, Culture and Recreation, the department will be receiving 3.1 million to honor commitments and invoices from the 2019-20 financial year. Turning now to the additional allocations from national in the 2020-2021 main adjustment budget, GPG departments will be receiving a total of additional funding amounting to 1.3 billion under the auspices of the Presidential Employment Initiative. The resources are expected to flow through the provincial equitable share and conditional grants in the form of presidential employment emanating from the COVID-19 pandemic. These funds provide targeted employment opportunities as well as employment risk support and will be flowing to the following departments. Under education, it will be 1.1 billion for the hiring of education assistants and to preserve posts in quintile 4 and 5 in public schools and low-income private schools. Under health, it will be 47.4 million in additional funding to statutory human resource training and development grant to appoint enrolled and auxiliary nurses. Under social development, it will be 777.8 million towards increasing the early childhood development grant to provide salary top-ups for additional compliance support duties and for employment risk support. Under the Department of Transport, 45.5 million through the Provincial Road Maintenance Grant for job creation through the road maintenance. Additional funding of 104 million from national will be allocated to social development. as a reimbursement for the provision of food relief to needy Gauteng residents during the early stages of COVID-19 pandemic, when there were stringent lockdown conditions that prevented many forms of economic activity. Human Settlement will receive an additional 100 million to deal with the validated accruals. This while other processes are still ongoing to ascertain the true quantum of what the department owes and verification of these claims. Other additional funding of 51.1 million will be allocated to agriculture and rural development in order to provide support to Mfuleni local municipality, particularly relating to addressing the poor waste management services and fast-tracking service delivery. The Office of the Premier will be receiving an additional amount of 64.4 million, of which 49.6 million will go towards the validated claims for the acute mental health users and 14.7 million towards the 250 learners that were appointed to assist the hotline for a 12-month period during the COVID-19 pandemic. Gauteng provincial government departments will be receiving a total of 23 million, being funds suspended from the Gauteng provincial treasury baseline following the decentralization of the property audit processes as part of the phase 1 and 2 implementation process. And that is an integral part of the open tender process that the province embarked on in the 5th administration. This gives effect to the pronouncement made during the tabling of 2020-2021 budget in March, where I signaled that departments would gradually take over the process that had previously been centralized in the provincial treasury. The final phase will be implemented with effect from the 1st of April 2021. Health will also be receiving 324 million top-up sliced from the other Gauteng provincial government departments as a reimbursement for the personal protective equipment procured on their behalf during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, when this function was centralized. Honorable members, let me conclude by acknowledging the following. I want to thank Premier Makura for your inspirational leadership as we continue to implement GTT 2030, a vision that will result in the delivery of the Gauteng of our dreams. To my colleagues in the Executive Council, thank you for your leadership, for your support and the teamwork, even during the robust discussions when tough decisions must be taken for the net benefit of the people of Gauteng. I want to thank you again, the Finance Portfolio Committee, which is led by Chairperson PC, and the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, led by Honorable Kanyile, and for giving us a great insight that have continuously improved the way we manage public finances. HODs of the departments and MMCs of finance in the municipalities, and including your CFOs and MMs, many thanks for your support as we continue to execute our mandate of providing stewardship all financial matters in Gauteng. To my team in the provincial treasury led by HOD Nomfundo Chabalala, thank you as always for working closely with the departments, municipalities and entities to ensure that public finances in the province are managed in accordance with the rules and regulations. And thank you for your support that you have been giving to me since I've been working with you in the office, with all the DTTs that you work with, in ensuring that I deliver good services to the citizens of the province. Special thanks goes to my family, particularly my 2 children, for the support and inspiration that I receive from them every day as I continue to do my job as a public representative. Honorable members, these are difficult times, but we must not despair, as President Ramaphosa reminded us when he addressed the nation last week. He says, I will open quote, "Let us continue to demonstrate that we are people of resilience and courage. Let us show that we care for one another in sorrow, sickness, and in death. It is our individual actions over the next few weeks and months that will decide the fortunes of our nation." Close quote. As we go through COVID-19 pandemic, we need to learn that every crisis is never permanent. It has an expiry date. We read in history that there were challenges in the past and many people lost lives and livelihoods. There is life on the other side of any crisis, and we need to work together and observe all health protocols in order to avoid the second wave of this pandemic. That many experts have warned us that it might be more devastating than the first one. Honorable Speaker, let me present the 2020 MTPPS, which outlines the context within which we will fund provincial priorities aimed at realizing GGT 2030. I therefore table the following documents for consideration in the House. I table the 2020 medium-term budget policy statement, the Gauteng Provincial Adjustment Appropriation Bill 2020, the 2020 adjustment estimates of the provincial revenue and expenditure, the 2020 adjustment estimates of capital expenditure, a copy of my speech. I thank you. Case, Madam Speaker, will deliver it to your office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. MEC will be available to receive all the documents in the office. This therefore takes us to the end of our meeting. Our next sitting will be, or maybe before that, let me announce that today we have the Rules Committee immediately after this sitting. Then will be followed by the OCPOL meeting. So we start with the Rules Committee, then the OCPOL. Thank you very much. Our next sitting is on Tuesday, the 24th of November at 10 hours sharp. Thank you very much and all the best.